Welcome to the Bible Breakdown. It's a black man and woman in America who no longer identify as believers. This show contains adult languages, themes, and isn't meant for children. As black people, we respect the history of the black church in America, but its current state is massively abusive, and we think the Bible might be part of the problem. Listen and let us know what you think. Peace. So, welcome back to the Bible Breakdown. I'm your host, Kat.
And I am TK.
Hello, TK. Do you remember what we talked about last time on the Bible Breakdown?
Last time we discussed First Chronicles, 10 through 12. So, yeah, we talked about, went back to a lot of David stuff and Saul, which we've heard about before. But yeah, so we'll talk about the Ark, which just makes me think of Indiana Jones.
Me too. I very much associate the Ark of the Covenant with Harrison Ford's character, Indiana Jones, which, looking back now, wildly problematic.
The movie?
Just the whole conceit, like the idea of using someone else's thousands of year old tradition as just the backdrop for your adventure movie is kind of disrespectful.
I need more. I would like more explained.
So I think it's a little easier for me because I've only seen the Ark of the Covenant. I didn't watch that a lot because I was younger and the end scared me. But I did watch the Temple of Doom. And it's a very...
that's the worst one, but okay.
It's just this idea that this, Western white man goes into these cultures and is stealing their artifacts, but making it look like he's actually the good guy. And he's helping sort of the backwards darkies. I think that's kind of the tone of it. And then you got this little Asian boy being like, Indy, you're my best friend. It's just all very self-indulgent. And you can kind of tell there wasn't a lot of diversity in the production. You think about the care that was taken with more modern projects like say Black Panther, and Ryan Coogler was like, let me actually go to this place, talk to the people there if I'm going to try to represent this culture, as opposed to they talk funny.
I agree with you, but I don't think Black Panther is a good example.
Sure. But I thought it was because I actually took a friend of mine who's from South Africa with me to the movies so I'd know whether or not this was real or not. And she said it was pretty dead on except for Forrest Whitaker's accent.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah.
But I'm just saying, just the effort, even if there wasn't a great execution.
I guess
at least
not.
With Indiana Jones, there was no effort to be respectful to the culture that they were using for entertainment.
I guess where I'm coming from is when I say it's not a good example, it's more so I think majority of black people have this recognition of the fact of
just recognition,
yeah, there's the word, that we don't like that shit when people do that to us. So I think we're more inclined to, when we are visiting or being a part of other cultures, we're going to be more respectful. Whereas white supremacy has allowed a lot of whitewashing of Hollywood, which actually very, 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 very much annoys me when I watch certain films or
for sure. At some point, we got to talk about the 10 Commandments, because I think that might be an example of the most pernicious whitewashing, and just the impulse of, I guess, because if your whole life you've been the center of the narrative, you kind of just keep that going. Whereas for people like us, we're used to not being the center of the narrative, and because of that, we're kind of able to experience narratives in a more genuine way. I think, because I don't have to center myself in every single one of them, because I'm not the center of every narrative.
Yeah, which I agree. And I just, as somebody who's in the entertainment industry, I mean, I've had this conversation before, actually, I think on a panel once. And it's just the idea of I actually dislike when casting says needs white. Actually, I literally just looked at this because I did an audition before we got on mic. And one of the things was they sent out the audition, but they specifically for the lead character wanted a white male. And it's just like, what the, like, you don't need that. Like, and the thing you're selling is like, it could be anybody. So, I don't know. That very much annoys me, actually.
Well, it's just part of making America great again.
What was the other? Yeah, I don't know. Was America ever great?
Well, I was just being, sarcastic. So, but yes, I think
Actually, America's fucking great. I'm not gonna lie. I had this conversation on Friday.
Well,
Despite
America's
all
great
its
if
flaws.
America's great if racism doesn't bother you. Like, if racism doesn't bother you, America is sweet as hell.
No, racism bothers me,
about,
but I still like. I love my country still, regardless. I mean, not regardless, but I love my country. We could do better, though.
It was founded on racism. It runs on racism, and it really doesn't want to let go of racism. So I would be happy with like a rebranding. I was listening to Trevor Noah talk about like how Germany handled like things after the Holocaust, and like they changed their flag, they changed their national anthem. Like they really took it seriously. They were like, "Oh gosh, we were bugging," but America's just kind of like, "No, I'm pretty much." I think a lot of people are convinced the racism is what makes us great. Like the fact you can't let these darkies get to. Anyway, we both have to. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the Bible, which I feel like does play a role in sort of the colonizer mindset of we're going to go in and get rid of these boogity boogie religions and let them embrace our sweet white Christ. But before we can do that, we have to finish appropriating the Jewish religion. So here we go.
All right. Yeah, I guess I'm starting this off.
At least these aren't super long chapters. That's nice.
I had yet to look so far. Yeah. Yeah, that works. All right. Do you have anything before we get into this?
I just want to let everybody know that we're reading from the New Revised Standard Version. And if we weren't clear before, I feel like we got jumbled a little bit. We're going to be reading 1 Chronicles 13 through 15, starting with T.
Okay. All right. The ark brought from Kiriath Jearim. David consulted with the commanders of the thousands and of the hundreds with every leader. David said to the whole assembly of Israel, "If it seems good to you, and if it is the will of the Lord our God, let us send abroad to our kindred who remain in all the land of Israel, including the priests and Levites in the cities that have pasture lands, that they may come together to us. Then let us bring again the ark of our God to us, for we did not turn to it in the days of Saul." The whole assembly agreed to do so, for the thing pleased all the people. So David assembled all Israel from the Shihor of Egypt to Lebo Hamath to bring the ark of God from Kiriath Jearim. And David and all Israel went to Bala, that is, to Kiriath Jearim, which belongs to Judah, to bring up from there the ark of God, the Lord who is enthroned on the cherubim, which is called by his name. They carried the ark of God on a new cart from the house of Abinadab and Uzzah and Ahio were driving the cart. David and all Israel were dancing before God with all their might, with song and lyres and harps and tambourines and cymbals and trumpets. When they came to the threshing floor of Chidon, Uzzah put out his hand to hold the ark, for the oxen shook it. The anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah. He struck him down because he put out his hand to the ark, and he died there before God. David was angry because the Lord had burst out against Uzzah. So that place is called Perez Uzzah to this day. David was afraid of God that day. He said, "How can I bring the ark of God into my care?" So David did not take the ark into his care into the city of David. He took it instead to the house of Obed Edom the Gittite. The ark of God remained with the household of Obed Edom in his house 3 months, and the Lord blessed the household of Obed Edom and all that he had. Yes.
Okay.
I know somebody named Obed. Shout out to that nigga.
Okay. I hope things are going well for him.
I think he turned his life around, and I'm so happy for him.
That's good. That's a hard thing to do. But to go back to this story, I vaguely remember reading about this because I remember thinking it was kind of messed up of God just to kill that guy.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
But let's also
without warning too.
Exactly. But I like to sort of reframe a lot of these stories because I think the way, I don't want to say how you were taught to look at them, but the way I was taught to look at them is that these are, stories from God about, how to live and just, ways to learn about God. But in real life, a lot of myths and things about gods are just people trying to explain their behavior because gods aren't real. So I don't think this God character killed Uzzah because I don't think the God
think David
character
did
exists. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's always just really, really convenient that people's invisible friend gets blamed for killing people. When people go missing or when people die, it was like, you know what? The Lord sent this whirlpool from heaven and he just went up into heaven. I don't think you're going to find a body, y'all. So, yeah. I think this is something similar here where maybe someone else, ended up killing Uzzah and they just explained it on, man, you know what? I think I saw him touch the ark. Because it's just a way to create a mythos too around it. Because I honestly don't think this was a magic box that could kill people when it touches them. I don't think that's ever been a thing.
Yeah. I saw a pretty good saying yesterday. God has always been a placeholder for things we can't explain. When our understanding increases, God decreases.
Yeah. That's why all of these religious people are trying to ban like books and curriculums that actually teach people about stuff, because then it's harder to, propagate the lie that, God made you white because he likes you more than everyone else. So, because that doesn't make any sense. Like, if you learn anything about, like, why we come in different colors, there's nothing that shows that it's because there's a God and he likes the light ones better than the dark ones.
But you would argue that, they call it colorism. Colorism is real.
Yes, it's something we invented. Like I said, it doesn't prove there's a God. It just proves there are people who like to use gods.
But the effects of it are...
Yes, like the stuff you make up, like David, he was really killing people. So, like, yeah, all of this stuff, like, people do terrible things and blame gods. Because then you're not allowed to, like, because then they're like, oh, well, do you know better than God? It's like... like you can't, there's like, well, I have this, powerful, omnipotent, invisible friend who, who's telling me everything, and what, you just bringing me your facts. I feel like I'm learning that more and more, that the truth is never more compelling than lies. Like, people much prefer a lie that,
a comforting lie is usually more interesting.
Yeah, like a comforting lie is just better than hard truths, which, because like I said, I don't have anything better than, but like there's going to be a, eternal like fest with all of your loved ones and lost pets forever and ever if you give me a certain amount of money. Like, all I'm bringing is like, hey, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world, but the only thing that is certain, you gonna die.
Which is okay. Again, as I've said
but
for
it's not
how
as
many
attractive.
episodes.
It's such a, where people are just like, why can't Kamala come up with a more attractive message? It's like, the message is we're going to have to get out here and work. Like, to change stuff, to make things better, we're going to have to work. You can't wait for magical, Sky Daddy to come down and just, if you hope enough, that'll be, and give enough money to the priests, then everything will be fine. Like, no, you know, every day is a fight. You have to struggle. There'll be like breaks from it occasionally, but and at the end of it, you just die. I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, I'm going to move on to First Chronicles 14, if that's okay. All right. David established at Jerusalem. King Hiram of Tyre sent messengers to David along with cedar logs and masons and carpenters to build a house for him. David then perceived that the Lord had established him as king over Israel and that his kingdom was highly exalted for the sake of his people Israel. David took more wives in Jerusalem, and David became the father of more sons and daughters. These are the names of the children whom he had in Jerusalem: Shamuel, Shobab, and Nathan, Solomon, Ibhar, Elishu, Elphelet, Noga, Nephleg, and Japhia, Elishama, Beliada, and Eliphelet. Defeat of the Philistines. When the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over all Israel, all the Philistines went up in search of David, and David heard of it and went out against them. Now the Philistines had come and made a raid in the valley of Rephaim. David inquired of God, "Shall I go against the Philistines? Will you give them into my hand?" The Lord said to him, "Go up, and I will give them into your hand." So he went up to Baal Perazim, and David defeated them there. David said, "God has burst out against my enemies by my hand like a bursting flood." Therefore, that place is called Baal Perazim. They abandoned their gods there, and at David's command, they were burned. Once again, the Philistines made a raid in the valley. When David again inquired of God, God said to him, "You shall not go up after them. Go around and come on the opposite side of the balsam trees. When you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the balsam trees, then go out to battle, for God has gone out before you to strike down the army of the Philistines." David did as God commanded him, and they struck down the Philistine army from Gibeon to Gezer. The fame of David went out into all the lands, and the Lord brought the fear of him on all nations.
All right. So more battles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This
And
is
David.
like,
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say this is just like one big bad action movie. It's just like a lot of fighting with no interesting context.
Like I said, it's very self-indulgent, kind of like a Steven Seagal movie, where you're just. And the fact that he's just like, you know what? I had this realization, God wants me to be king of Israel. I can just tell. Actually, hold on. He's talking to me now. Shall I go up against the Philistines? Oh, okay. Yeah, he's saying I should. Wait, I'm going to ask him again later. Okay, he's saying I should go around. To me, it's also very telling that this God he's referencing doesn't know about the rest of the world for some reason. Like everything, like this is supposed to be this testament of the God of the universe, but it's really just taking place on this strip in the Middle East.
Yeah. Which is wild, because I saw the thing that you shared where it was like everything that we know about the Bible took place and they circled the area, the strip in the Middle East. And then it just shows the map of the rest of the world. And it's like, what was everybody else doing during this time?
They were making up their own gods. And I think this is also concerning.
It's so ingrained.
It is. You know what was
culture.
so funny? Because, I feel like this is going to be one of those elections that are, studied for a while. And one of the big things that at least tipped Michigan for Trump was the Muslim vote, because they didn't like how the Biden administration was handling the genocide in Gaza. And I guess like the Trump surrogates out there were promising them that they would be better, but it's like if you pay any attention to Trump and his cronies, they're Zionists. Like a lot of they're Christian nationalists. So Christian nationalists, they hate Muslims. like if you're serious about like what they like and don't like, they like Israel and they hate Muslims. So now that Trump has appointed his cabinet for all this stuff, they're all like, "Hey, you promised us." And it's like, how many times do people have to be told like this dude is a con man? He'll say whatever he needs to say to get people to do what he wants.
Fuck. I wish I could remember what it was that I was reading. But something was like a lot of people were mad at him. I don't know if it was that. I feel like it was something else too, and they were like, "Oh, the tariff thing." They were like, I was reading something and a lot of the people were, or I was actually watching a video. This dude popped up on my channel and he was going through like comments and shit that was online. And they were like, "Oh, we didn't know he was serious about raising the tariffs because then that's going to make everything more expensive in the United States." Yeah, you fucking idiots. Yes. Why did you think he was not being serious?
Well, because he lies so much. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't do it. Like, that's my whole thing. Like, his words aren't consistent with his actions. So sometimes he says stuff and does it, and other times he doesn't. A lot of times it depends on the people around him who are saying, say this, or we need this. Because that, to me, like I said, I've never been a fan of the guy ever since I found out he raped his wife, like back in the 80s. To me, that's been a disqualifier for me ever really. And here's the thing. He's an unrepented rapist. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing if you've made mistakes. Like you said, you're talking about your one friend who turned his life around. I'm not saying he was rapist or anything, but I'm just saying, like, turning your life around is something to be admired. And I'm not a big fan of bringing up, like, people's past to, like, constantly punish them. But to me, if you've messed up in the past and you don't feel bad about it at all and continue to do stuff, yeah, I'm not messing with you. So to me, the fact that him being, like, a chronic sexual predator wasn't enough to disqualify him, you know, from one of the most important jobs in the world, to me, I can't do anything with that. But secondly, let's just say that wasn't on the table. The fact that he's so cozy with these neocons who want, like, to go back to where we could say, like, hey, no darkies, or hey, whites only. Like, whatever happened to those good old days? I'm not a big fan of that. Like, a lot of people don't hate racism enough for my taste. Like, to me, and then, like I said, also the misogyny and the homophobia, all this stuff always goes hand in hand. So yeah, all that to say, I feel like a lot of the people in Trump's camp are big fans of this book, knowing exactly what's in it. Like I said, they want to reestablish a kingdom in Israel so that Jesus can come back and beat them up.
Yeah. All right. So, moving on to...
Oh, and let me be clear. I don't believe that, and I think it's super messed up to do a genocide in Gaza just so you can establish the right kind of Jews. Because keep in mind, too, they do not want any of the darky Jews over there. They want the Europeanized Jews over there. So, okay, now I'm done.
Yeah, whatever you say, you Jew-hating bastard.
No, I'm not that. But I will say it is concerning how much anti-Semitic rhetoric I'm hearing from black people now. Like, historically, like, Jewish people have really helped in the civil rights movement, like, historically, because they recognized all of these plays because they're like, oh, we've seen this before. Like, we know what this is leading up to. We were in ghettos too, and then it turned into trains, and then it turned into gas chambers. So let's just nip it in the bud. So, like, yeah, I hate hearing anti-Jewish rhetoric because I know exactly what they're trying to do.
Okay, 1 Chronicles 15. The ark brought to Jerusalem. David built houses for himself in the city of David, and he prepared a place for the ark of God and pitched a tent for it. Then David commanded that no one but the Levites were to carry the ark of God, for the God had chosen them to carry the ark of the Lord and to minister to him forever. David assembled all Israel in Jerusalem to bring up the ark of the Lord to its place, which he had prepared for it. Then David gathered together the descendants of Aaron and the Levites and the sons of Kohath, Uriel the chief with 120 of his kindred. Of the sons of Merari, Asaiah the chief with 220 of his kindred. Of the sons of Gershom, Joel the chief with 130 of his kindred. And the sons of Elazaphan, Shemaiah the chief with 200 of his kindred. And the sons of Hebron, Eliel the chief with 80 of his kindred. And the sons of Uziel, Aminadab the chief with 112 of his kindred. David summoned the priests Zadok and Abiathar, and the Levites Uriel, Asaiah, Joel, Shemaiah, Eliel, and Aminadab. He said to them, "You are the heads of families of the Levites. Sanctify yourself, you and your kindred, so that you may bring up the ark of the Lord, the God of Israel, to the place that I have prepared for it, because you did not carry it the first time. The Lord our God burst out against us because we did not give it proper care." So the priests and the Levites sanctified themselves to bring up the ark of the Lord, the God of Israel. And the Levites carried the ark of God on their shoulders with the poles, as Moses had commanded according to the word of the Lord. David also commanded the chiefs of the Levites to appoint their kindred as the singers to play on musical instruments, on harps and lyres and cymbals, to raise loud sounds of joy. So the Levites appointed Heman, son of Joel, and of his kindred Asaph, son of Berechiah, and of the sons of Merari, their kindred, Ethan, son of Cushiah, with them their kindred of the second order, Zechariah, Jaziel, Shemaramoth, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Benaiah, Messiah, Mathathiah, Eliphelehu, and Mikneiah, and the gatekeepers Obed, Edom, and Jeiel. The singers Heman, Asaph, and Ethan were to sound bronze cymbals. Zechariah, Aziel, Shemaramoth, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Messiah, and Benaiah were to play harps according to Alamoth. But Mattaniah, Eliphelehu, Mechaniah, Obed, Edom, Jehiel, and Azariah were to lead with lyres according to the Sheminith. Chaniah, leader of the Levites in music, was to direct the music, for he understood it. Berechiah and Elkanah were to be gatekeepers for the ark. Shebaniah, Jehoshaphat, Nathaniel, Amasai, Zechariah, Benaiah, and Eleazar, the priests, were to blow the trumpets before the ark of God. Obed-Edom and Jehiel also were to be gatekeepers for the ark. So David and the elders of Israel and the commanders of the thousands went to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord from the house of Obed-Edom with rejoicing, and because God helped the Levites who were carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord, they sacrificed 7 bulls and 7 rams. David was clothed with a robe of fine linen, and also were all the Levites who were carrying the ark, and the singers, and Chenaniah, the leader of the music of the singers. And David wore a linen ephod. So all Israel brought up the ark of the covenant of the Lord with shouting, to the sound of the horn, trumpets, and cymbals, and made loud music of harps and lyres. As the ark of the covenant of the Lord came to the city of David, Michal, daughter of Saul, looked out of the window and saw King David leaping and dancing, and she despised him in her heart, as she should.
Yeah, this was a very musical chapter. I can almost hear the tambourines in my head. But yeah, I kind of remember this story where Michael, I think it's just Michael, Saul's daughter, like saw him dancing, and she's like, "Oh, I see you wanted to dance in front of your handmaids," and I feel like he kind of snapped back at her at the last story. I can't remember what he said. Let me see if it's maybe in the next chapter. No, um, I don't know. I don't feel like looking up now, but I remember he had some words for her. But yeah, like I said, this, I mean, they're kind of treating this arc like a idol.
Yeah. Which, what, I guess what is supposed to be in the ark, or
I thought it was
is
like
the
this
ark?
like
It's
golden
just,
cedar box that the Ten Commandments are supposed to be in, like that Moses, the
okay.
second, yeah, the version. But it just so happens if you try to like check that out, like by opening it and seeing, they said you're gonna die. So you basically have to take your life into your hands to check and see if that's even what's going on.
Sounds ridiculous.
It does. But once again, you got to think about the people at this time. Like, are you really going to risk it? Like, maybe you were friends with, what was his name? Uzziah or whatever, who got messed up? Yeah, Uzzah. Yeah, Uzzah, who, touched it. So I feel like that story was very strategic to make sure that people didn't go snooping around.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I'm
The more we read this, the more I'm just happy that I have the mindset to where I was just like, yeah, this is not for me. And as days keep progressing, I more and more have been more comfortable just being like, yeah, I don't want to do this. So.
And isn't it nice that you don't have
And telling
to?
people that.
But I mean, wouldn't it be so sad? Like if we, like in most periods in time, like you weren't allowed to not do the local religion.
No, I know.
And
This
that was very.
I was born at the right time.
Yeah.
I was born at the right time. Because
Okay.
yeah.
I was kind of curious.
Actually, I've been trying to live my life with we've talked about how it's a white privilege for white folks to just be like, oh, I'm either religious or not or whatever. I've been trying to live my life like Neil Brennan, as far as just being like, yeah, no, I don't do that shit. So yeah, and just seeing what happens.
Yeah. Funny enough, it's so funny to me because I'm like, a lot of times, I feel like, is it fair to say that I'm kind of a unique person?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
A lot of my friends are
So
actually, but yes.
Okay, we can both agree on that. And I think part of that is because I treat myself like a white girl. You know what I mean? Like I feel like, and I treat everyone like white people. And that is to say fully people, like I think that's something that kind of separates me. Some people like it, some people don't. But ultimately I like it. Like I think everybody deserves the same amount of consideration and humanity, basically. And yeah, yeah. So, and it does feel good to be able to say, yeah, I'm not into this. Like, even though it's so funny to me that people will just make that sort of binary religious good, not religious bad. It takes someone who's more nuanced to be like, oh, wait a minute. Like, because if you bothered to talk to either of us about why we don't like, necessarily staying within the confines of the, sort of Western Christian tradition. I mean, I'm sure T has his reasons. My reasons are it's too friendly to sexual assault, rape, and genocide. Those are my biggest problems with it.
Mine are much simpler.
Okay.
My time could be better spent doing something that I actually enjoy.
There you go.
I have always felt that way since I was a child. When I went to church, I never was like, yeah, let's go to church. I did not like it. I didn't give a fuck about Sunday school. I wanted to go home and watch TV or play. And this is interrupting that. Me taking that hour or 3 hours or however long, depending on which church. Some people's church is a whole fucking day because
because they don't want you
they do the
thinking
whole
about
breakfast.
sin.
I would much rather just live my life and enjoy it. Like
that's the devil in you. Out, devil,
having
out.
a Sunday morning free or because also we used to go to church on Saturday. If I wanted to stay over at my aunt's house, we used to have to go to church on Saturday night. And I hated that shit because all the best movies and shit was coming on TV. And it's just a boring ass thing. Like I checked out and I just never liked it. And then when I got to high school, I don't know if I feel like I mentioned this on here before, but it's been a while. I was just thinking about this the other day. My senior project was why religion isn't real.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what, I mean, I know kind of what inspired me to do that, but it's just like, I just don't fuck with this shit, man. Like, I don't.
Well, it's got a 2,000-year-old head start. So, it's kind of, it's very difficult to convince people that, something that's been branded so well isn't actually true. Like, it's like, hey, you should put because to me it was just always so obvious when I was super critical of other people's religion. And I was just like, well, if mine's so good, it should be able to stand up to the same amount of scrutiny. And it turns out it's like, oh, yeah, I'm pretty much like everyone else in the world when it comes to a religion. Like, I'm just doing what my parents taught me. And I
also just thought about that, what you said the other day, that phrase in itself, but people being able to defend it and not having to convince you that their shit is like, if you're so set on your shit, you don't need to convince me that you're real, that it's.
Well, I do if I want to keep you from going to hell. Once again, love bringing this up. We went into all these details about the Ark of the Covenant. No mention of hell. It's supposed to be in an eternal torture dimension. That seems pretty important, but once again, still not brought up. But all this also reminds me of this bit Bill Burr did. I can't remember which. It was the special where it was like all in black and white. And he was talking about how, same thing, like when he was growing up, like his religion made sense to him, but everybody else sounds crazy. But he was like, but the only difference is because it got to me when I was a little kid. It's like everybody else's religion I heard about once I was an adult. And he did this whole thing where he was like, say what I say when I say it. Then you can go home and play with your toys. Okay, I'll say it. Then I can go home. It's just this whole, you know what I mean? But I will say this, because I think it's important to understand people who don't feel the way we do, which is for people who don't have the privilege of having like a full social life, church fills that for them. And also a sense of meaning. Like, I feel like my life has meaning without church, but for some people, they really don't feel like it does.
I guess this is, first of all, that Bill Burr point is funny because he talks about Scientology to make a comparison. And he was like, well, they have a spaceship in theirs.
But like you said, it's like, oh yeah, like Ron has all the answers. Be for real. But it's the same thing with our stuff. It's just like, okay, so I'm just going to do whatever because Paul said so. Paul, the Jew killer. You know what I mean? Like, or he was Saul, the Jew killer. But he's like, oh no, I changed my name. I'm totally different now. It's like, okay, cool. Or no, he wasn't the Jew killer. He was the Christian killer. Because he was out here killing Christians before he had his epiphany. So to me, it's all just very convenient. I'm sorry. And he did not see it for women either. Like, I think that was what was kind of cool about Jesus and his life. He was just like, yeah, I'll listen to women. And people are like, what? The dirty females? He's like, yeah, I'll listen to some women. But then Paul comes around and he's like, no, these women should not even be talking to where I can hear them.
Did you ever watch the Martin Scorsese film, The Last Temptation of Christ?
No.
Apparently they got like, I just always thought it was just like another version of Passion of the Christ, but apparently it's not. Apparently, this movie got banned because
was
Christ
he doing
last
it?
him. I don't know. I don't know if he. I think so, or something along that effect. He basically dives deeper into his relations with Mary Magdalene.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean,
And people were like, "What are you doing, Marty?"
well,
That
even
is
according to the
blasphemous.
Bible, the context is that either he was married to either Mary or Martha or both. Because we like to put our social, like we like to project our social, like systems onto the Bible, but the way that their society is set up, there wouldn't have been a time where a single man would have been talking to single women in the same household. You know, like while they're cleaning up and stuff like that. There's that story of Jesus trying to teach to Mary and Martha, and Martha's getting mad at Mary because she's not cleaning up. And it's like, okay, but that wouldn't have happened without, like, I don't know. Anyway. But no, I'll try to watch that. That sounds interesting. But two things. I asked our third co-host, Google, what the exact location of, well, not, I asked where the Ark of the Covenant is, and they said the exact location of the Ark of the Covenant is unknown, and it may never be discovered. However, there are many theories about its current whereabouts, including, first on the list, Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church claims the Ark is in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Axiom, and the theory is based on the 14th century Ethiopian epic, the Kebra Nagast. Ooh, that sounds interesting. I should read that. And then some people believe it's in a cave in Mount Nebo by the prophet Jeremiah. Some people speculate it's in Israel, hidden in the Quorum or the Djaharia. And some people believe it's in Ireland. Some people, yeah, there's a lot of, and then there's also Rome and Zimbabwe. So I had always heard it was in Ethiopia, but who knows?
Can we go back to, because you had said something, I wanted to make a point about
Sure.
people joining church or being Christian or part of any religion for that matter because they want to attribute their life to having meaning. And I feel this is also where I differ because, and it's funny because I guess this film has been interpreted to have a lot of religious subtext, but in The Matrix, particularly the third one, there's the scene where Neo is fighting, Agent Smith, and you know, he's beating the shit out of Neo, and he just asks him like, why do you keep fighting? What are you fighting for? Like, it's worthless. And Neo's just like, yeah, because I choose to. And I feel like we should all have that mentality in life. Like, I just do this thing because I choose to. You can attribute your own meaning to whatever. Like, you don't have to subscribe to this other shit that people put on you.
Or you're gonna go to hell.
I'm not much worried about that, actually.
People are really worried about hell. Like, that comes up. It's weird. Like, I listen. You know what I mean? Like, people are really worried about that. It's like, oh, you gonna go to hell? It's like, oh, you going to hell? It's like people think that's a real thing.
I mean, yeah, people say that, and I used to think that. I actually, as a child, felt very fucked up about that for a long, long time. Like, it took me into my early 20s to really realize, like, to be comfortable with that. Again, this is why I'm obviously into the arts. This is why I feel like media is so fucking important, because me watching The Sopranos and then going on this, like, because the ending of Sopranos, I won't spoil, but it kind of ends in a way that most people don't. And like, that took me on when I found out what the director was trying to do, that took me on a like path of like, oh shit, like, if you just die and there's nothing, what the fuck? And then like, I was really uncomfortable with that for a while, and then I just kind of eased into like, oh no, actually that just makes life more meaningful. You just like, this is all you get.
Yeah, pretty much.
But you know, that call me crazy, people.
You're crazy TK. Well, next time on the Bible Breakdown, we'll be going through some more Ark stuff. David, he's got, he's known for being musical. That's funny. He's got like a whole song of Thanksgiving. That'll be very, very long. Another okay, so we're going into the first covenant with David. And then David's kingdom established and extended. So yeah, we're just learning, like I said, still can't really get into David. I don't think he's a particularly good leader, but he probably was super hot and very entertaining.
Yeah, apparently you're easier to follow if you look good.
We're very we human beings, we really like it when people are hot. But hey,
oh, I know, I subscribe to that for sure.
But thanks for listening. Your body belongs to you. We hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please reach out. And I'll talk to you next time.
biblebreakdownpodcast@gmail.com. Be curious, not judgmental. Peace.